Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the international edition of Future Hacker. This is your host, Maria Taiji, and this is the second episode that we're talking to Carlos Torres. The subject here is Industry 4.0. On the first episode, we talked about the basics of all the change that the industrial area is coming, the new technologies, and the new challenges that they are facing. As usual, we'll discuss the educational system. Now we are digging a little deeper about specific technologies on this market. So Carlos, we see a lot of news regarding the Internet of Things for personal use, especially when it comes to the connected home and home appliances. So how does IoT apply to the manufacturing industry, and which are the sectors that will benefit the most from that type of innovation?
Correct. The IoT, the Internet of Things, as you rightly say, it is now for personal use. That's very common with the wearables. And we are all expecting what we also call IIoT, this Industrial Internet of Things. So this is basically on one hand, the machine-to-machine communication, and on the other hand, the machine-to-system communication. As in the last episode, I told you that we are seeing that as the sensors are getting cheaper and cheaper, we can monitor and have real-time data from the machines. But right now, the big bottleneck is the communication. So the internet speed we currently have and the bandwidth that we usually have in industries and companies are not enough to make it real useful. So what we are all expecting is the 5G. The 5G will trigger the IIoT. So, but right now, as you may know, the 5G is a geopolitical issue. So it creates a lot of tension between the US and China, where there are two leading players and they are competing, the Huawei and Rakuten. Maybe we all know Huawei, which is right now the tech leader for 5G. But Rakuten is giving us a big opportunity to get into the business. So Rakuten, a part of Huawei, they developed the software. So Rakuten business model is based on the software. And they say, okay, use whatever hardware you want, but I will supply you the software. This is very similar to the whole competition between Apple and Microsoft. So Apple used to sell, or is still selling, the hardware and the software. And this is the business model of Huawei with the 5G. They give you the server and the software. And this is what you have to use. What Rakuten is telling you, okay, you can use a US manufactured server or hardware, and you install our software. So this is finally, I mean, for the US government, this is very, very interesting because now we have a real competitor. We can use our hardware for the 5G. So, but we are all expecting, I think the 5G will be the inflection point for implementing the IIoT. And the innovation, okay, the IIoT is like where is this atmosphere or this space where all these new technologies will work. So if we have the right atmosphere at the right speed and it's flexible enough to use, then I mean the technology will be real exponential, and then we can use all these kind of algorithms, machine learning, artificial intelligence, all this new technology we will be able to use. So there is one key point here that we have to understand, that the digitalization of any company is not to use IT tools. The digitalization, in short, is to use these new technologies to improve our decision making. So the time we start doing decisions based on the information supplied by these new technologies is when we really can talk about a digital management of the company.
Yes, definitely the 5G is it's everybody's waiting for it, right? It's going to be a huge breaking point for so many industries. So let's cover another technology that is on the spot, and it's also a great example of innovation for industries, is the use of augmented reality. So when it comes to manufacturing industry, they can offer support and repair instructions, replace parts of machinery, even training of the users over a mobile device. I understand it makes the process faster, cost-effective, and it does improve also safety and offer a better working conditions depending on the environment we're talking about, right? Still, some companies are afraid to make this type of investment, and it does take a lot of internal proofing. So for the service providers. On the customer side, they still feel the need of having this in-person support from the company, as much as I believe that COVID has helped in changing this paradigm. So besides the internal education and the workforce qualification efforts that we already discussed, which other changes are needed to increase adoption? So you just mentioned the 5G, right? So what else?
Well, I think that engineers in industry, we have traditionally failed to demonstrate the profitability of new technologies. So in my opinion, this is the main reason why the industry adopts technology in the late stages. So augmented reality and remote support technologies boomed during this COVID-19 crisis, because in industry, there are many contracts for operation and maintenance that require on-site inspection or on-site works. But due to the travel restrictions, we have to adopt other way to deliver this knowledge to the plants, to the industrial plants, in order to do the right things at the right time. So that's why. But augmented reality is a matter to show the profitability of this technology, and I don't see the industry that reluctant to adopt this. Actually, in my former company, we used to do shaft alignment, and all the hardware and software was ready for this augmented reality, and it was quite nice. I mean, it cannot be that we can hunt Pokemons on the street, and we cannot use this technology in the industry. So I think it's just a matter of time that this technology will start going into the industrial plants and asset-intensive companies, and they will work very, very fine.
Okay, great. So there's two subjects that, when talking about Industry 4.0, we have to talk about, right? One is the use of data. The other one is regarding cybersecurity. So let's go to the first one. So companies, they can make big data-driven decisions and have access much earlier in the process of inequality issues before it becomes a bigger problem, just as you mentioned in the beginning of our conversation. So as we all know, the use of data has been a hot topic, and the same rules and regulations created by many countries, like GDPR in Europe, also applies to the manufacturers. At the same time, to truly integrate both vertically and horizontally, which is already super hard to do, the whole supply chain, they must share information end to end. So company, partners, suppliers, the end customers, even after it reaches the customers by tracking the product usage. So in your opinion, how aware is the industry about those regulations? What's the impact in the adoption? And what are the main challenges to make this shift to a more informed decision-making model?
Okay, so General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, which is in Europe, as you mentioned, it applies to personal data. So in industry, we have more like process data, machine condition data, and yes, we have to somehow take care of personal data, but this is maybe in another side. So what I see in the industry is what, for example, when I explain our software and we reach customers and say, okay, we explain, the new business models are basically doing this. This is something that say, okay, dear customer, you are sitting on a gold mine and you don't know, and this new gold is data. So let me manage your data in a way that I will supply you a software. You will somehow feed this software with your data, and we will process this data and we'll compare this data with other peers or other companies' data, and then we will transform it and provide you useful information for your decision making. That's quite simple. Even they understand during the first call we have. But then when they start to think about, they get a little bit nervous when they say, okay, do you mean that I will share my data with other companies which I don't know? They say, no way. And this is exactly what happened when we had the first cloud computing, the first software as a service, which were basically the data was stored not in your local server, but on the cloud, let's say. And many people got nervous 10 years ago, or 15 or 20 years ago. They said, no, my data have to be stored here in my office where I have the local server. This is exactly what we are facing now, that people get pretty nervous when they think we will share their knowledge, which is they are actually sharing data, which is not knowledge, but they are kind of reluctant to share these secrets they have or this special machine they have. But at the end of the day, this is only data, and we need to process this data, horizontally to compare. On the other hand, when we talk about vertical integration, as you mentioned, what we are seeing is what we call the permafrost layer effect or the crystal roof. But this is that the middle management is a little bit reluctant to change. So ideas or new proposals that come to down get stuck, and ideas from the bottom up, they also get stuck. So this is this kind of layer that sometimes is not giving the right access to the information. So what we see basically is that corporation or companies, better say, they have like two worlds. One is the corporate segment, and the other is the operations. And the information they are like two organizations in one company. So what these new technologies are doing is that they are breaking this layer, this permafrost. So they breaking this crystal roof, and it lets the flow. Now we start seeing the first companies that, based on the machinery data, this machinery that the inspector or the operators collect on site, this data is processed and then it combines with financial information or financial data. And if it's rightly processed, they can help you a lot taking the decisions for CapEx and OpEx. This is the vertical integration, and this is easier to get compared to the horizontal integration.
Yeah, and this difficulty in sharing the data, it's the impact in the company is pretty amazing. I read a study that said that 68% of manufacturing decision makers, they state that they don't have access to the right information and insights to make an informed business decision. 67% are struggling to share key information between their suppliers and partners, and even their own department. And that's exactly what you were talking about. So let's talk a little about cybersecurity. So with the increasing connectivity of machines, naturally cybersecurity is coming into play with a more strategic role in which companies should have already started investing on, right? Also, when it comes to exchanging part of the local infrastructure to cloud-based solutions, as you were just talking about, companies are putting critical information about their businesses in hands of a third party. The trend is that companies will face an increase in cyber attacks as they embrace connectivity. So how to face this challenge? Do you think that this will become a regular internal department of every manufacturer, just like, for example, we have the procurement department and the HR?
This will be a huge topic in the next years, in my opinion. And basically, what I would recommend to companies is to be aware that in the industry, you have like two IT networks: the corporate network, the one that where you manage the emails, the local, the LAN network that where you exchange information between employees, and then is the industrial network where traditionally all these PLCs are acting. So we are starting to see as cybersecurity issues both corporate, which is very common because this is the same technology we have been using for years, and the industrial network, let's say. So the need to have a secure network, both in corporate and industrial level, it depends 100% of the companies. So big companies, they have to have their own IT department and do the right things to have their security updated. On the other hand, we see that a new door to have these problems is the hardware. So in the hardware, now the hardware that this is related to the procurement, so the hardware has to be safe enough to be sure that it doesn't have any let's say spy or any hardware device or hardware that can send information to someone else. And now we see that this is also a geopolitical problem. So what we will see that according to the part of the world where you are having your company, there will be some hardware that will be forbidden in your country. So that will be a real challenge for the next times and will be highly regulated in our opinion.
Yes, and they have reason for that, right? Okay, so we're getting to the last question, and I'm very curious about your opinion. So let's jump here from the industry 4.0, which you're living today, to the industry of 8.0. What's your bet on how it will look like?
That's a very challenging question. That's something really, really hard to predict. But what I see is that the integration will be the main topic. So we will have, instead of having like local companies, we will have like in a more, we have a kind of communities. We have these digital communities. So for instance, all the cement plants will be in one community, and they all around the world will have to use some protocols or some system to supply the demand of cement all around the world, and they all will be integrated, okay, instead of having the US cement industry, for instance. So the other thing is that we will be able to supply the goods or the products really, really on time. Highly customized products will be no issue to deliver. And basically we have the integration of any areas that we maybe do not know, and something that to talk about is the blockchain. This is also that will facilitate the business, because instead of have this letter of credits from the banks to do international business, we will have some blockchain contracts, like what we currently call smart contracts, and it will make easier to do business internationally. We will have integrated supply chains between, not by local or by countries, but by industrial sectors, I would say.
That's all super, super interesting, Carlos. We got to the end of the interview. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And, I'll leave the last word to you. So if you have any final comments, please be my guest.
Just also to thank you for the invitation, and I will encourage to all companies and especially asset-intensive companies to first start with the transparency of the integrations, because digitalization without transparency in the organization is useless. So everything starts with the organization culture, and then we can talk about digitalization. And this is my best tip to all companies.
Future Hacker. Life. Path. Future.